Okay, time for another quick tip tutorial, and this time it's more of a sort of mindset as opposed to an actual tutorial. Well, it'll be a little bit of a tutorial as well, but I just want to show you this really quickly. So if we wanted to create the leg of one of our characters here, and this is Reg from Made in Abyss, right? If we're looking at this piece, right, we can see that's a cylinder, okay? So let me just draw this in here very crudely. Okay, we've got a little bit of a cylinder here, and that's kind of the mindset that I want to sort of teach you guys, right? If we were building this, I would say, okay, that's a cylinder, here's another cylinder, okay, and even this is a cylinder, right? If I just join that piece there, and then there we have it, right? That's a cylinder. And looking at these pieces, you have to kind of think of that. And even this piece here, right, it's sort of an extrusion of a cylinder, right? And that's the mindset I want to sort of teach to you guys, right? Just the fact that you can reuse pieces, right, and then sort of get all of these here, right? And we will be doing all of these pieces only using cylinders, and I'll show you that. And just again, sort of the mentality behind that. So let's get right into it. Let's append, and you can honestly append anything. It doesn't have to be a cylinder. Okay, and that's because we're going to go down here to initialize and then Q cylinder on the y-axis. Okay, I'm going to click on that, go into solo mode, and here it is. Okay, I'm just going to scale that up and just move it into place. And I'll keep it in the middle actually because we want symmetry. And then I'm going to press Shift F. That way we've got our polyframe, and I'm going to go to Z modeler, which is BZM, which is the shortcut. And I'm just going to hover over one of these lines here, the edges, okay, and then hold down spacebar and go to Insert Multiple Edge Loops. Okay, and then just click and drag that, and I'll just click it on the bottom again to get the exact same function there, okay. And now we basically have the shin area, okay. So now just for a little bit of support, I want to go to the point there and go to split, and just click and drag that out, and do the same thing on the bottom. I'll just click it, and it'll repeat the function, okay. That's how the Z modeler works. If you just click it, it'll repeat the same function on a point or on a line or on a polygon. I'm going to press D over here, so not Control D, but just D for dynamic subdivisions. And if we go to geometry, we can see dynamic subdivision right here, and I want to bring that number to 4, okay, so smooth subdivision. And I want to come down here to crease, and then crease tolerance is fine, but the crease level, I want that at 3. So 1 below our smoothing level, and then I'm going to hit crease, okay. So if I were to bring this down to like 2, you'd see it's a little bit smoother. And if I were to bring this to something like 1, it's even smoother, right? So the lower your crease level is, the less sharp it is. Okay, so we pretty much have his leg done. I'm just going to press W, okay, click on that settings sign there, and go down to deformer, okay. And now what we can do is we can sort of deform this and just kind of work it into a shape that we need it, okay. And if you don't know how to use deformers, basically these white points, you can mask them out using Control and clicking and dragging, or Control Alt clicking and dragging. And the yellow arrows are to add or remove control points, and you can have a look at my video on how deformers work. And I'm just going to click on W again, click on the settings, and click on accept. And we basically have the shin, right? It's already done. This is a relatively simple shape anyway, so nothing too crazy going on there. Pretty sure that's something you guys could have done. But that was the simplest shape, so we got that out of the way. Next I'm going to go to duplicate, okay, so I'm just going to duplicate that. And again, there's a lot of duplicating and reusing of materials here. I'm just going to click on that Q cylinder Y again, and I'm going to press D again, just to go into our dynamic subdivisions, and I'm going to press crease. We don't need to change all those settings because it's a duplication, right? So it's basically taking the settings and reusing them. And I'm just going to crease this edge here, or split it rather, just like we did with the upper leg. So now I'm doing kind of these ankle bone pieces here, and again using a cylinder. Okay, just positioning it in the right place, flattening that out, and just making sure I get out of solo mode so I can see what's going on, just in terms of scaling. And just moving that into place again. Okay, so again, we're just sticking with cylinders, and this is pretty simple so far. We'll get a little bit more into in-depth with the shin guard, I guess that's what that is, and the bottom of the feet. That's quite complicated. Well, not complicated, but a lot more complicated than what we're doing here. And so now I'm just using Q-Mesh and Extrude, or Q-Mesh and Polygroup All rather, and then here I'm just masking that area and inverting it, and then just pushing it out. And here again, just sort of moving it into place, mirror and welding that. You don't need to see me doing that in real time. Okay, now I'm going to press Shift D so we have just normal subdivisions, and I'm going to hold down Alt and then paint this on. Okay, so you can either click on it or just click and drag, and it'll highlight these pieces in white, which means work on these pieces only. And if I just click and drag this out and tap Alt, I can change the color, and let me do this from the top. So I'm just tapping Alt just to change the color and then holding down Control. So now this is its own piece, right? It's an extrusion basically, or separation. And so I'm just going to bring that out there, holding down the Control button while I'm doing this, just to make sure that I'm not, it's not attached, okay? And I'll just pull this out again with Q Mesh. So that's its own piece. And again, yeah, I'm just doing basically the same functions that we were doing with the other pieces, right? And here, what I have is a crease that I don't want. So I'm just going to hover over that, go to crease, go to edge loop complete, and then Alt click on that, okay? And that will remove it. So if you click on something, it'll add it. If you Alt click on something, it'll remove it with the Z modeler. Okay, and how we got this piece is, all we did was we took the upper leg and we just extruded that piece out, right? Instead of recreating a new piece and kind of molding it to or shape it to look like that, we're just using again the Z modeler, and now we're just using the deformer, right? And just moving these points around. Again, if you want to know how to use a deformer in depth, you can just check out my video on that, but it's pretty simple here. All you have to do is just click on the points you want or highlight the points you want and just move them around. And there, all I did was I just duplicated the piece and moved it to the back. And again, we pretty much got the upper leg. Now we just need to do the feet, or the foot rather. Okay, again, adding one of these cylinders and just shaping this piece up. Okay, just using the gizmo in this case. Okay, adding more loops, edge loops, and that also added creasing, but we'll sort that out in a second. And so what I'm doing here is just using the deformer once again, holding down Control Alt just to select these points, and I Control click and drag outside of the box to deselect all of them. And again, I'm fast forwarding through this because all it is just shaping that. You don't actually need to see me doing it in real time. The idea behind this video is just the concept, not the actual creation of this. Okay, and here for the bottom of the feet, what I'm going to do is kind of the same thing that we did for the shin, or the shin guard, and that's holding down Control and pulling this out. But this is on the top as well, which is what I don't want. So I'm just going to undo that. What I'm going to do is hold down Alt and paint this area so we know we just want that. I'm going to drag this out and hold down Control. Okay, I'm going to tap Alt a few times, then hold down Control so it's a different color, a different poly group. Okay, and over here I'm going to go to Insert and make sure it's Polygroup All, and that way we've got a little bit of a support for the inside of the leg there. Again, because it's Polygroup All, it already did it on the bottom as well, so we don't have to worry about that. It didn't do it on this piece because it's a different polygroup, but we will do this separately on our own here. But I just want to undo that and press Shift D so we can see what we're doing, and I'll just insert that again over here. So once again, we've just reused another piece, and as you can see, you don't need to recreate pieces, right, and try and shape them. They already exist where you have them, so why not use them, okay? And again, that's the mentality I'm not trying to teach you how to make the leg, just the mentality behind the making of pieces here. Okay, so all I'm doing here is just setting this to another polygroup by Control W with Control W, and here I'm just selecting this piece here and pressing Control W so it's its own group. Okay, because there's a separation on the bottom of the foot there, it's not one continuous piece. And so what I'm going to do next is just add an edge loop, a single edge loop. Okay, so insert a single edge loop, okay, on the side like this, because there is a gap there, so I want to make sure to get that gap in. And I'm just going to mirror that and then mirror and wild, just so we have that. And what I'm doing here is kind of extra. What you can do is just hover over polygon and then go to delete and then delete that polygon. What I'm doing is just masking everything out and then making sure to select that one piece, which is obviously pretty hard to do. So instead you could just go to polygon, select delete, and then say single poly. Okay, but we're pretty much done here. All we're doing is extruding that piece, okay, creasing it like we do with all the other pieces, and uncreasing those edges because we don't need those creases on that. And here I'm just shaping it, right, with our gizmo tool, okay. Here there's too few edges, so I'm just going to add one, okay, and just shaping that up, and we're pretty much done. This is it, right? That is the leg done. So again, as you can see, we started off with a cylinder and we reused pretty much everything that we had in the scene, okay? And that's pretty much how you can create sort of hard surface modeling or hard surface models very, very quickly, right? Build things up, especially when you're concepting. And here we have it, right? I could definitely have spent a little bit more time on that, but the piece that I did, so I did spend a little bit more time here. I just sort of skipped ahead, and you can see I just added a few more loops here and there, just a little bit of creasing. And you can also do the same thing with the hands, right? So with the hands, I kind of did the same thing here. If you look at the forearm, or this piece, the palm, I guess, this is just a sphere which I flattened, okay? And again, I've just used the parts that were already there. There was no need for me to recreate these pieces, because sometimes when I see people creating stuff, they try and recreate things from scratch, and there's no need for that, right? So even this here with the forearm, right? This again was a cylinder, and I just reused parts, okay? I didn't have to go ahead and try and realign things and recreate things. So again, that's the mentality that I want to sort of teach to you guys here, or highlight. See the same thing with the arm and the arm joint, right? They're all just cylinders. It might look a little bit complex, but as you dive deeper into it, you realize it's actually quite simple, and that's just it, right? There's no need to go complicated, and as long as you get it across to the viewer, they're really not going to tell the difference. And even if you add like a few of these cylinders, it might look pretty complicated, but you'll realize that all you did was just use a few cylinders or a few cubes or whatever it might be, and that's all you did, right? And that is it for this one, guys. So just a little bit of the mentality for you as opposed to an actual tutorial. Well, I guess you learned how to create a robotic leg, I guess, and that is pretty much it for this one. So I will see you in the next one.